The claiming grounds were a choir of held breath. Torches hissed, and the night itself waited to see who would be chosen. Names were about to become collars. She did not wait for hers. She turned, eyes wide with rebellion, and caught a stranger in a hood of midnight, and then she kissed him. Not softly, not with hope, but like a sin she intended to repeat until the stars burned out. The bond ignited, silver, hungry, alive. Elders gasped, and every single one of them bowed, because the rogue she kissed was no rogue at all. I was the king who vanished. If you're still breathing after that, then you're meant to be here. Like, subscribe, and send hypes to push this story to more dark hearts. Step deeper into the shadows before they close behind you. The arena froze. Even the torches forgot how to move. Moonlight cut through the smoke in thin, trembling lines, and for a heartbeat, it felt as though the entire kingdom was holding its breath. Every gaze fixed on her, the Omega who had just kissed a stranger to cheat the claim. Every guard reached for a blade. I lifted a single hand, and silence fell like a blade itself. She stood at the center of the circle, hair wild, lips parted, the echo of that kiss still clinging to her. Her eyes said run, her scent said defy, and the bond pulsed between us like a forbidden hymn. I stepped forward. Each footfall broke the spell a little more. The elders whispered, "Who dares challenge the law?" But the law was already broken. By her. By me. When I spoke, my voice carried through the smoke, low and unhurried. "You chose a stranger," I told her, "and woke a crown." The crowd stirred, uncertain whether to kneel or flee. Because when I lowered my hood, the torches bent inward as though in worship. Recognition spread like fire across dry grass. The rogue they scorned was the king they buried. She stumbled back a step, disbelief flashing behind her defiance. I moved closer, slow enough that every breath became a threat. Her pulse trembled, mine answered. The air between us thickened until even the night began to sweat. I stopped close enough for her to feel my restraint, close enough for temptation to start breathing in my stead. The scent of her fear mingled with something darker, something I shouldn't name. My breath found her jaw but never touched. It hovered there, tracing the path her courage had taken. The night pressed us together like parchment sealing under wax, heat meeting heat, defiance caught between command and surrender. Her lashes lowered. Mine didn't move. Control became a language neither of us spoke fluently. She whispered, almost daring herself, "What happens now?" My answer came quiet, steady, final. "You'll sleep in my keep, not as punishment, as proof." The crowd gasped. The elders lowered their eyes, and as she was led past me toward the waiting gates, she turned once, just once, and looked back. That single look carried more danger than any blade, and the bond, still new and burning, answered like it had found its master. The council chamber trembled with noise, wolves in human skin snapping for blood. They wanted her head, her heart, her defiance turned into warning. I let them bark until the echoes grew bored. Then I rose. The sound died like a throat cut mid-prayer. "She will sit," I said, voice quiet enough to scare them. Every gaze followed my hand as I pointed to the throne beside mine, empty since the last queen was buried under frost and regret. She hesitated only once before stepping forward, chin high despite the tremor running beneath her skin. The throne's shadow reached across the marble and coiled around her ankles like a tame serpent. It looked like possession, even though I hadn't spoken the word. The elders hissed. "The law forbids." "The law belongs to the crown," I said, "and the crown belongs to me." She sat. The chamber flinched. Every alpha there, every man who'd claimed to serve, stared at her like she'd stolen a kingdom with a single kiss. I leaned toward her just enough for her to feel it, my breath threading through the air between us. "Hold my gaze," I murmured, "while the room forgets you exist." She did. And somehow, the room remembered her harder. One heartbeat, two. Power shifted, silent, visible, indecent. The elders began to sweat. My generals forgot their tongues. And still she stared back, steady, proud, a tremor running through the stillness like a drumbeat buried under snow. The bond flared, faint and dangerous, tasting of rebellion and something sweeter. For a moment I forgot that I had brought her here to break her. My voice came out darker than I meant it to. Do you know what you've done? Her lips barely moved. Made the king remember he's alive. The words hit harder than any blade. For the first time in years, the room felt too small for my rage, or my restraint. I rose from the throne, stepping close enough for her shadow to merge with mine. Her pulse flickered, quick and disobedient. I reached behind her, not for her skin, but for the velvet cord that tied the council banners together. I tore it loose, drew it between my fingers, and lowered my voice. Velvet ribbon, I murmured. No knot. Her breath hitched. She didn't move. I let the ribbon trail near her wrist, never binding, only promising. My voice, I whispered, the weight. Her reply was silence, the kind that trembles before surrender, and the air between us bent until it shook, ready to snap. Before it could, the great doors burst open. A soldier staggered in, armor cracked, eyes wild. Blood slicked the stones behind him. He fell to one knee, then to both, then forward at my feet. A dagger jutted from his back, the hilt carved with a crest I hadn't seen in years. He gasped once, voice breaking between the words. My king, the rogue banners. And then he died before he could say the name that followed. The chamber erupted. But I only looked at her. The girl who'd kissed a stranger and turned him back into a king. The war hall was a furnace of shadows and stormlight. Maps sprawled across the table like open wounds, territories bleeding ink, borders trembling under the weight of names long forgotten. Rain lashed the high windows, the sound blending with the low growl of restless soldiers waiting outside. The council reeked of fear dressed as arrogance. They hid their unease behind strategy and law, pretending not to watch her where she stood beside me, barely a step behind the throne, exactly where no Omega had the right to stand. An elder sneered, old teeth flashing like dull knives. An unclaimed woman at your war table? Shall we start letting servants write our treaties too? The room chuckled, soft and poisonous. She turned, eyes calm as snowfall, voice cutting cleaner than steel. Mistakes, she said, make kings bleed. Silence. And for the first time since the siege began, I smiled. The elder paled. The soldiers found other corners to stare at. And when her gaze flicked toward me, power danced behind her eyes. Wrong for an Omega. Perfect for ruin. When the council dispersed, I stayed behind. So did she. Rain slicked the stone walls, dripping from banners heavy with history. The stormlight turned her hair silver. Her defiance glowed like it belonged to another century. You enjoyed that, I said, stepping closer. She tilted her chin. Maybe I did. Careful, I murmured. There are teeth behind this crown. She didn't flinch. Then show me how sharp they are. The words found something feral inside me that I'd thought long dead. I moved before I could stop myself, pinning one palm against the map beside her face. The parchment crumpled under my hand, a ripple of war lines pressed between us. Her breath hitched but didn't retreat. Lightning cracked outside, painting her skin in silver light. The distance between us thinned to a knife's edge. Her breath glided up my throat, cool, steady, deliberate. Restraint hummed inside my chest until it screamed. My voice came out rough, unrecognizable. You're playing a dangerous game. So are you, she whispered. You just wear better armor. For a heartbeat, everything in me leaned toward ruin. Then I saw it, glinting under the torchlight, a pulse of raw, old power coiled behind her gaze. A spark that shouldn't exist in anyone born Omega. What are you? I asked, almost a growl. She looked straight at me, and when she spoke, her tone was soft but steady. My name for you, she said, is the one they buried with your mother. The world stopped. Her lips shaped it. My true name, the one carved only into the tombs of my bloodline, whispered once by the woman who betrayed us all. No one alive should know it. The torches stuttered. Rain paused mid-air. Every ghost in this castle turned its head to listen. And as the sound of my name bled from her tongue into the storm, I understood something cold and impossible. Only one soul had ever known that name, and she had destroyed my line. The hall had been dressed in celebration, though every smile felt carved from stone. Gold plates, crimson banners, torches burning high enough to lick the ceiling, the perfect disguise for a court that reeked of fear. I hadn't wanted the feast, but kings don't always choose their crowns, and sometimes power demands a performance. She sat to my right, quiet but not small, a spark among wolves who wanted her ash. Music rose, brittle and uneasy. Goblets clinked. I turned my own cup in my hand, studying the rippling wine when she laughed, softly, barely there, and reached for it. "Let me," she murmured. Before I could stop her, she drank. It happened fast. Her smile faltered. The goblet fell, ringing against the marble as crimson spread across the floor. For a moment, no one moved. Then I did. The throne room erupted behind me, but I barely heard it. Her body was light, frighteningly so as I carried her through the storming corridors. Thunder rolled above, rain struck stone. The castle's veins pulsed with chaos, but none dared block my path. Her head lolled against my shoulder, breath shallow. "Stay with me," I growled, as though command could cheat death. She stirred, voice distant, unfocused. Words spilled from her lips, not the language of this world, but something older, a prayer or a curse. The sound scraped through the air, heavy enough to make torches flicker and bow. In the healer's chamber, I laid her down. Her skin burned cold. Wrong. Impossible. "Bring water," someone shouted. "No," I said, sharper than steel. I knelt beside her, pressing my palm to her cheek. "Listen to me," I murmured, voice rough. "You don't get to leave me this way." Her eyes fluttered open, unfocused, but she looked at me like she was seeing through centuries. "Do you hear me?" I asked again. "Breathe." My voice threaded through her fever like silk drawn over coals, each word a tether, each breath a demand. And her silence, trembling, desperate, clutched at it as though it were the only thing still real. The air thickened. The flames bent lower, drawn by something older than command. It wasn't obedience. It was reverence. Then she gasped, one sharp sound, and her lips parted to speak. The words crawled out soft, holy, terrible. "Bringer of ruin. To the Alpha line." The room went silent. Even the storm outside seemed to bow. My hand tightened around the edge of the bed. "What did you say?" Her gaze unfocused again, her voice barely a whisper. "It's written on your fate. And mine." Steel sang as I drew my dagger. The blade kissed her throat, not cutting, just waiting. "Who taught you my name?" I asked, low and lethal. She smiled faintly, delirious but unafraid. "Dreams," she breathed. A pause. Long enough for lightning to flash through the window and paint her face in white fire. Then softer, almost tenderly. "Dreams that taste of iron and roses." The torches hissed. Outside, thunder rolled again, not angry this time, but like it was laughing. The blood moon rose swollen and red, heavy enough to stain the clouds. Every shadow in the castle stretched longer than it should have, as if the walls themselves wanted to listen. 3 nights, 3 truths. That was the vow I bound her to, and myself with her. No chains, no blades, only the kind of promise that leaves scars where no one can see them. The first night began in silence. The air was so thick with power it felt like breathing through flame. She stood before me in the ritual chamber, candlelight trembling along her skin. "I'm not afraid," she said. You should be. I drew a circle across the floor with salt and shadow, the old ways of our bloodline. She stepped into it. The bond tightened. Now, I whispered. Truth won. Her eyes closed. When she spoke, her voice was not her own, soft, distant, echoing through centuries. I see you dying, she said. You fall in a hall of ice, your crown cracking with you. And I am there. But I do not save you. The words hung between us like smoke. I wanted to laugh, to call it dream madness, but her eyes, God's, her eyes, glowed like she was watching it happen again. The bond thrummed. My heart answered it unwilling. The second night came colder. Rain whispered across the battlements. She sat by the fire, the flames turning her hair to liquid bronze. When I asked for her truth, she did not look at me. I remember her, she said, the queen you killed, the one they said betrayed you. I didn't breathe. She loved you, she continued, so much she burned the world to keep you, and when she fell, the world never forgave her for it. Her voice trembled at the edges, like the memory hurt more than the telling. I wanted to deny it, to command silence. But something inside me recognized the echo of her words. The queen I buried in legend looked back at me through the eyes of the woman I should never have touched. That night, I didn't sleep. I listened to the rain beat against stone, counting each drop like a confession I'd never made. By the third night, I knew running was useless. The blood moon had sunk low, almost gone. We met again in the same chamber, the circle still drawn, the candles half melted in weeping wax. She stood across from me, waiting. Your truth, she said softly. I stepped inside the circle, the bond thrumming in my chest. For a long moment I said nothing. Then, love, I began, voice raw. Love was the blade that ruined me once. I locked it away, starved it, buried it under duty. But you... I stopped. The air shifted. She moved closer just enough for our shadows to merge. No iron, she whispered. Only vow. She knelt before me, not in surrender, but in challenge. Her head tilted up, defiant and trembling all at once. Then prove it, she said. Command it to heal. The bond snapped tight. My hand hovered near her face, not touching, only tracing the heat that pulsed between us. Her breath met mine halfway, unspoken prayers and defiance tangling in the space we refused to close. Breath traded, thunder trapped between ribs until the silence itself detonated. When it broke, the candles burst, one by one, drowning the room in red light. The walls groaned, ancient and aware, and somewhere deep within the castle, footsteps echoed. Slow, familiar. A ghost walking my halls again. I turned toward the sound, every instinct sharpening into dread, because the dead I feared most did not always stay buried. Whispers crawl through the keep like smoke through a crypt. Servants stop talking when I enter a room. Generals avert their eyes. They all say the same thing when they think I can't hear it, that her soul once belonged to the first queen I executed, the one whose ashes still stain the throne. The council calls it blasphemy. The priests call it omen. But I know what it is. It's hunger. The throne remembers her, and it remembers me. Knives grin from sleeves in every corridor. Loyalty thins like breath in winter. Even my bannermen whisper that the bond between us is curse, not covenant. Tonight that whisper reaches her ears. I find her on the parapet, the storm clawing at her gown, hair whipped wild by the wind. Tell me, she says before I can speak. Did you kill her for this too? For what? For making you feel something you couldn't control. Her words hit harder than steel. I take a step forward. You think I enjoy this chaos? She laughs, a sharp breaking sound. You wear it like armor. Lightning splits the sky, white and merciless. I move before I think, catching her wrist. Careful, I growl. There are still people who'd call that treason. She jerks free, eyes bright as the moon tearing through cloud. Then call me traitor, Majesty. But if you're going to rule me, do it honestly. Her voice lowers, trembling not with fear, but fury. Be king in the open, she whispers, stepping closer until rain beads on her lashes. Be mine in the dark. And for the first time, the storm bows. Thunder rolls once, then fades, kneeling to something greater than weather. Rain crowns her like baptism. I circle her, slow, reverent, the way a prayer forgets it's meant to end. Every inch I don't touch ignites with the weight of what I could. Her breath comes in quiet bursts, defiance laced with invitation. You challenge me, I murmur. I remind you, she answers, that kings are still men when the crown comes off. The air trembles, thick with heat and threat. Each breath tastes of salt, storm, and promise. She lifts her chin, and my restraint wavers like a candle drowning in its own flame. Every place I do not touch burns brighter, until desire itself feels like punishment. When the world finally exhales, I step back. The rain slows, as if uncertain what comes next. Then the gates crash open. A scout stumbles in, mud splattered up his armor, blood tracing his sleeve. He kneels in the puddles forming on the marble floor. Your Majesty, he gasps, the northern stronghold. It's gone. I stiffen. Gone? Taken, by the rival alpha of the Grey Fang clan. He hesitates, eyes flicking toward her. He has her sister. The silence that follows is sharp enough to wound. Her breath shatters it first. Help me save her, she says. The tremor in her voice is not fear. It's fury dressed as grief. She steps closer, the storm catching her words and carrying them straight to me. I'll give you everything you pretend you don't want. I meet her gaze. And against every vow, every law, every ghost still whispering my name, I say the one word that seals us both to ruin. Accepted. The Greyfang keep loomed against the night like a carcass of stone, broken towers jutting from fog, torches guttering in the wind. I went in alone. No heralds, no guards. Only a blade and a vow that had already cost too much. Death looked up from its throne of bones and seemed almost startled to see me arrive willingly. The corridors were silent except for rain dripping from the ceiling, the air thick with the scent of iron and rot. Bodies of my scouts lay sprawled across the hall, eyes open, mouths frozen in half-prayers. I stepped over them, every sound of my boots echoing like a dare. I didn't expect her to follow, but I heard her before I saw her, the faint whisper of her voice reciting our vow in rhythm with her heartbeat. Old words, older than our kind. They made the stone tremble, the torches bow. When she appeared in the archway, soaked and wild-eyed, my first instinct was fury. My second was something far worse. Relief. I told you to stay behind, I said. And let you die alone? She shot back, drawing nearer. You think I'd survive the guilt? We didn't have time to argue. The enemy came out of the dark. Gray cloaks, hungry eyes. Steel met steel. Blood met the floor. I cut through them, but not fast enough. One blade slipped past my guard and found its mark. The world tilted. I fell to one knee. My hands came away red. She screamed my name and ran. The moment she touched me, the air cracked open like glass. Don't, I rasped. It's done. No, she whispered, kneeling beside me. It's beginning. Her hands framed my face. Rain and tears blurred together, and when our foreheads met, the world shrank to a single shuddering pulse. Her breath mingled with mine until it was impossible to tell whose it was. Power surged through her skin, through mine. No touch, only force, only surrender. She poured herself into me, a tide unlocking every door I'd ever sealed. The pain turned to heat, the heat to light, the light to something wordless and holy. The bond roared awake, a living creature with teeth of fire. It burned through me, replacing death with something worse. Hope. When I opened my eyes, the wound was gone, but her body trembled, her skin gone pale as moonlight. What did you do? I demanded. She smiled faintly, eyes dimming like fading embers. Finished what we started. Then, from somewhere deep in the keep, a sound began, low, rhythmic, merciless. War drums. Outside, the moon began to eat itself. A black shadow devouring the light, piece by piece. Prophecy taking shape. I caught her before she could fall completely. Her voice, barely a whisper, brushed my ear. One must die, for the other to live. The drums quickened. The eclipse bled across the sky, and the air filled with the promise of an ending neither of us could escape. The throne room drowned in the noise of battle. Steel clashed against stone. Banners ripped from their poles and burned mid-air. The scent of blood and rain mingled with the echo of vows broken. At the center of it all stood the traitor, smiling, sword glinting with arrogance. "The engine is choice," he said. "Pick your ruin." The words sank into me like claws. Every life in that hall waited for my answer. Every god we ever defied leaned in to hear it. I looked at her. Torn gown, blood on her lip, fire in her eyes. The prophecy's living contradiction. My doom, my salvation. "I choose her," I said, her voice steady as the heartbeat of fate itself. "And I choose you." Destiny didn't hesitate. It reached for its due. The hall dimmed. The flames bent inward, trembling like worshippers. The air between us shimmered, thick with the weight of what could no longer be undone. Her lips parted. Mine followed. The world stopped breathing. Mouths met. Slow, inevitable, holy. Breath shared. Power mingling like storm and sea. The kingdom itself seemed to hold still, waiting for instruction. I took her oath between my teeth. She lifted my crown without touching it. Time faltered. The kiss slid slow as a blade through silk, and only the warmth after proved the cut. Light burst from her, molten silver spilling across the floor, crawling up the columns, devouring the shadows. Every soldier dropped their sword. Every bell in the city began to ring, and then one by one they died mid-peal. She drew the curse into herself, eyes calm, smile soft, as though surrender had always been the plan. The glow dimmed, leaving only silence and the taste of her on the air. I fell to my knees. Her scent clung to my armor, sweet and cruel, the last thing the world had left of her. I bowed my head, and the crown slid from my hand. "I thought she kissed a rogue to escape a fate," I whispered, but fate kissed back, and demanded a kingdom.